out, get everything organized. So I think it's a better way to serve our clients while also getting referrals for business amongst all the different companies we have going on.
So I think of the Now Financial Network as what connects all of the companies and all of the work we do together. Much like the slogan, I feel it's a one-stop shop type of thing. Okay, go ahead. And I think to me, the Now Financial Network means all different types of business services to financially empower somebody, whether that's a small business, whether it's a company, whether that's an individual. And accounting is one of the many, many, many services that they can come to for financial empowerment.
I like using the phrase umbrella, and I think we've used it many, many times, but I also come with a background of branding, and I look at it as the Now Network being the brand, and that you have sub-brands underneath it, and that by using the Now Network, and as Caitlin said, connecting different types of services, not just accounting, but other types such as marketing, sales, everything that a business owner would need, connects it underneath that brand. So this way it's not trying to explain what this person does, what that organization does. What we do is we say the Now Network, so that this way it's a group of different skill sets, different companies, and everything that can service people as a small business or with the students having the education on too.
So kind of like Lori touched upon, I always explain it as like the umbrella company underneath or above RSCO and everything, and especially with the nonprofit attached. So like Lori said too, I think the brands and just like the umbrella company to kind of give everything like a face and be able to say like, oh, the Now Financial Network under, and then like RSCO or something. So that's kind of.
All right, so I think we're all relatively on the same page, at least where we're at right now, of what we think the Now Financial Network is. And I don't think, the Now Financial Network really comes out of a need, right? Any business that gets developed is because there's a need out there. So if we go back when it was just an accounting firm when it first started, the theory was want to be a good accountant, want to provide good services to our clients and do the accounting. And then what happened is like, well, you could be the greatest accountant, but you may be not able to help the organization because of other areas that they're not good at. So they might not have a good internal department, they might not have good advisors, they might not have a good attorney or whatever. And in our case, what happened was, since accountants, rates are, it's not cheap to go to an accountant and have your stuff done. Well, we always felt in order to do our job, we needed to have accurate information. So we'd have clients who come, and those who have worked on DAI or VIA can see it's kind of scary how companies run their financial statements. So what happened was we saw a need out there saying, well, wait a minute, you have accountants out there, you have businesses who don't understand how to do any of this stuff to even get the information accurate, and the only alternative they really had, mostly on a organized basis, was an accounting firm. So they go to their accountant, they give them their stuff, they say, this is a mess, it needs to be cleaned up. They would take the time of doing it. Again, not as skilled, to be honest with you, not as skilled at QuickBooks and everything else as they could, charge them a lot of fees, but not really help the client and make that more expensive. So what we had done is, originally we said, we don't want to charge you our rates to be able to get your financial information right. We want to take accurate financial information and be able to help you with your future, help you with your tax planning, help you with your financial planning and all of that. So that was really what the impetus of VIA was, because what we saw out there was we were referring, and the only people you could refer to do that work were bookkeepers. And at that time, there wasn't really an organized group that did bookkeeping. It was either the accountant, or it might be someone who does it part-time from their home or something like that. But there wasn't an organization that really did it. So we started referring it out to bookkeepers, and then what happened was, all we were doing was trying to make sure that the client is happy and meeting your goals. And what would happen is, since their service philosophy was different than ours, Now we're getting a phone call, and all we try to do is help the client. Say, listen, don't have us to go through this. Please go to Tiffany and let her take care of you. Now we're getting phone calls saying, Dan, what's up with Tiffany? I haven't heard from her in 4 days. She showed up one day, she didn't the next. So what happened was we realized very quickly that even though we knew there was a need out there for people who could help them with getting their financial house in order, there wasn't a good solution out there, because if we did it through accountants, it was very expensive and not cost effective for our clients. If we did it through bookkeepers, the way they were structured and the way that industry was, that they weren't giving us the same level of service. So at that point we decided, says, this is ridiculous. All we're trying to do is help our clients to refer them, and there's nobody out there who's filling that gap. So that was really what started VIA. And when Lori came on, we said, wait a minute, instead of us doing that, why don't we have our own company that we can understand that they operate through our same principles, the same systems, they have the same commitment to client service and everything we have, and now we'll have VIA. So what happened with that is, now when we have that accounting client that comes and says, Dan, I need you to do your tax return, and I look at their information, I'm like, you're not even close to me being ready to do your tax return. Now we have the alternative and say, listen, here's Lori's card. Why don't you give her a call? Why don't you let them get your, that's what they focus on. Lori's a QuickBooks Pro advisor. That's what she does every day, working with companies. Accountants are doing taxes, financial statements, audits. There's no concentrated focus on doing it. So that's really what the impetus of VIA was. So that's really how VIA got started. And then we looked at the fact that, okay, even if they have good, accurate information, there's the statistics are that 80 to 90% of businesses fail in like their first 5 years. And when you think about that, that statistic is staggering. It's not 1 out of 100. It's, the majority of them, 8 or 9 out of 10 of them fail. And you see it every day that you drive. You can drive down Main Street or High Street, Glassboro. You're going to see the names change. You could drive on your own streets, and you see businesses going. So we really looked at it further and said, no, there's another piece missing here. Even if we're doing our part on the accounting side, that's not solving the problem as far as, enabling companies to be set. So the Now Financial Network concept really kind of came from a couple of different ideas. One was this, that it can't just be worrying about their bookkeeping and their accounting, that there's more to that. There's marketing, there's sales, and all of those aspects. But even for our services, we needed to have, as Lori said, we needed to have that brand. We needed to be able to say that if you come to the Now Financial Network, this is what you can expect. These are the type of people, so it's consistent service. Okay? The other impetus for the Now Financial Network really relates to the student working professionals and what we're trying to do with the students. So we had looked at, obviously we've been doing this for over 20 years, and we really looked at it and say, not only are we passionate about it and love it, but it works. We're able to help people become what we call the social entrepreneurs of the future. We lived through when the financial collapse hit and all of that, and I seen the progression, and I saw that it just kept getting more greed, just worrying about me, coming up with all of these schemes, not worrying about anyone else, just worrying about Wall Street or whoever making money. And that whole philosophy really is what destroyed our country. That put a lot of people in really bad places. That's what got rid of the middle class and all that stuff. And I said, no, there's more. There needs to be the opportunity, and especially with students, that you're coming out of the gate. You have a battle right off the bat. There's the American dream, as they said it. When I went to school, college was a lot less expensive. You went through school, you got a job, and as long as you worked, you were there. Now college is very expensive. It's a big investment. It's putting a lot of stress on people. And we thought that the business model of what we were developing with SWP works. So how that does it is, we had looked and we said there's an unlimited demand for people who could be helped by SWP. Well, the only way we can actually meet that demand is we need to be able to grow. It can't be Rotolo, Spiewak, and Company and Via having 10 people working for them and saying there's all of these students that could use experience and use help. So we looked at it and we said we need to look at a growth strategy. We really need to look at that. We would like to, our goal is in 3 years is to be somewhere between 125 and 150 employees. So we went through a strategic planning process and we have it mapped out on how we can get there in 3 years. And the goal is going to be that when we're there, we're going to be able to give all of those opportunities to students. As those students graduate, they'll either have an opportunity with one of our companies or one of our affiliated members. But really, the bottom line that's most important is that we're going to teach all of, give everyone an opportunity, but also teach them about being socially conscious. And I'm a firm believer if you're not socially conscious, money doesn't mean anything. Success, that's not success. So our goal is really to hope that we're going to keep putting out more and more people who are social entrepreneurs who are out there really adding value to not only their companies, themselves, and the community. Okay, so that was kind of the background for it. So what I wanted to do is just go through. Now, this is actually the Now Financial Network business plan, and just wanted to go through and talk about the different aspects of it. So the first thing, just as far as the executive summary, the Now Financial Network provides financial leadership to businesses, individuals, and socially conscious tax-exempt organizations. Every organization and individual needs a financial leader to be successful. No financial leadership, no financial success. So what we found with businesses is that they could have great accounting, we could give them great tax advice. That doesn't equal success. That they really needed more. And a lot of times, if there's 90% of the businesses that are out there that are failing, we needed to look at it and say, what is it? Why are people not making it? And we really needed to drill down and see actually what the root of the problem is. And really the root is it's financial leadership. They're making decisions every day, whether they're in marketing, whether they're in sales, whether they're in accounting. They're making decisions every day, and every decision really has a financial impact. And if they don't have someone leading it, everyone saw if you just take a group of people and just start going out there in all different directions, if someone doesn't say, hey, I'm the leader, here's where we're going, follow me, and we're going to get from point A to point B, you just drift with no direction. And that's exactly what 90% of the businesses are out there doing. And the problem is that creates for them a lot of stress. They don't sleep at night. I guarantee most business owners are worrying about, am I going to be able to make payroll? Am I going to have sales? Am I going to have the money to put away for my kids' education? And that's 90% of the people out there. So the main goal of what Now wants to do is come up with a solution to say, you know what? Yeah, we can provide great accounting services, we can provide great tax, but really what you need if you want to be successful is really financial leadership. So that's really the root of what the service that the Now Network's going to provide. So as far as financial leadership, what it actually does for businesses and individuals, it provides stability, focus, direction, and most importantly, peace of mind to all involved. I met with a new client the other day who she was a basket case. She was all stressed out and everything. One of our clients referred her, and she had no idea. All she knew is every month she had no money in her bank account, and she had no idea how she was spending her money, and she was stressed every day. So I sat down with her and we did a plan. And by the time we were done in an hour, and I said, well, here's where your income and expenses are coming from. Here's some of the choices that you're making that are having an either positive or negative financial impact. And in that hour when she was done, the biggest thing she said is, now I got peace of mind. Like, oh, now I get it. It's not waking up every day and saying, geez, I hope I'm okay financially. You can actually, if you have leadership and planning, you can actually make sure that happens. Okay? So financial leaders know that their actions and choices impact the bigger picture, and that they do not want to waste time working in their business so they can work on their business. And what you find in that same scenario is that most people work in their business. I worked in my business for, probably 15 years. I was an accountant. I looked up and I did my accounting every day. And then I started realizing that no, I really have to start working on it. I really need to start looking at it from a different perspective and how you can tie it in personally. Have you ever worked on something and you're so much into the detail and you're like focusing on a project or something like that? And then all of a sudden someone comes to you and say, geez, I just want to bounce something off you. And they say like one thing and like it's like this epiphany that all of a sudden you know it. Or you sit down, you go away and you come up the next morning and you look at it and you're like, geez, now I understand that. That's really a good example of in versus on. That people get so wrapped up in their business, so stressed out about I got to go into the office tomorrow, I got this thing, I got these orders to do, that they never take the opportunity to step back and really look at where they're at and say, whoa, wait a minute. I've been doing this every day, but I didn't even have any idea if that was adding any value or not. Okay, so financial leaders know that. And then what is financial leadership? It's really a clear vision of a financial plan and the ability to execute it. And then the definition of financial success is to have a solid financial plan that will enable you to confidently realize your goals with peace of mind and enjoy the ride. Financial success means different things. You could look at someone's business and say, wow, this thing could be the next Amazon. That's great and they might have that potential, but the bottom line is financial success is defined by each person. Some people might say, you know what, my definition of financial success is that I can pay my bills every day and I have the time to spend with my family, I have the time to spend on events and stuff like that, or volunteer, whatever that is. So it's important, and it sounds really strange, but a lot of people, if you ask them that question, they can't give you the answer. Like how much money is enough money? People just say, well, I want to be rich. Well, that's not really a goal that's ever done, because however much money you have, you can always have more money, right? If you don't have a defined goal. And then they go out and they start spending it on yachts and this and that because they don't even have any concept, because they're not happy. And that's why money doesn't equal happiness, because if you don't internally look at yourself and say, what financial resources do I need for me to be happy, to me to be content, to me have peace of mind? If you don't define that, for those people who are just, I want to be rich, they're just constantly spending their time doing that. So one of the important parts that we're going to do as part of the Now Network is when we start consulting with someone, we need to know what their definition is. We need to know where their starting point and their definition is. Because I would want to meet with someone in the Now Network and say, you know what, in 3 years from now, I would love to be able to scale back my hours, know that I have the money put aside for my kids to go to education, and I'd love to have weekends to have fun. Okay, now we have a starting point, right? Now we can develop a financial plan, marketing plan, sales plan, and all of that geared around what those goals are. So the first thing that we really need to work with that most businesses don't have are that. So really from the initial choice leading up to the financial plan, every choice they make has a financial impact. And it really depends, it depends on the situation, and it should really be part of something that's clear and concise plan. Okay. The other thing that you have to deal with is that people are afraid of their finances, and this fear stops them from being happy and without peace of mind. This person that I talked about that I met with the other day, financially she was okay. I mean, really, after we sat down, she's like, wow, this is great. Like, I understand that next month I can have $500 in the bank, and the month after that, 1,000. I know the next month after that's going to be really tight, so I better scale back. And she understands that. Once she did that, she has peace of mind. Okay, so does that make sense as far as what the main purpose is? So most businesses lack financial leadership. So the next thing is, what can we do about it? And the first one is evaluate your level of financial leadership. So as we start talking with some of these clients, some of the types of questions, and you can almost ask these of yourself as we're going through them, because everything we're talking about with the Now Network does should really be done by every individual, whether you're starting a business or not. So the first one is, do you have the lifestyle you would like for yourself and your family? Okay, if they answer yes or no, then the next one is, are you able to sustain that lifestyle within your financial results? So they might say, no, I really don't, I can't, I don't even have the money to take my wife out to dinner once a month. I'd really wish I could have that. Well, then you need to know, are you able, what do you need to do to be able to accomplish that? The other one that's important is, and this is getting in the emotional part, which we'll talk about, is how often do you get fearful or nervous about your finances? And in most business cases, if they don't know where they're at and they don't have financial leadership, just like yourself, like if you have no idea where you're at, you're always going to be fearful or nervous about it. The other one is, are you running your business in a proactive or reactive mode? When you're acting in proactive mode, a change is an opportunity. Whenever something changes, there's an opportunity. If you're in proactive mode, that opportunity, you're at least in the right mindset to be able to take advantage of. When you're in reactive mode, you're just trying to get through the day to day, and you're so tied up in the day to day, you don't even have time to think of, oh wow, by the way, they just changed this. They just changed this rule. They just changed this. How can that help my business? And a lot of times, most businesses act in the reactive mode. The next one is, what level of your overall stress is a result of your business? So we want to know if they say, oh, no, I'm not really that stressed about it. Okay, well, then obviously the day-to-day operations and how they feel about their business are okay. But then the next question follow-up is really, well, okay, do you have the lifestyle that you have? If you have low stress from your business, you have the lifestyle that you want to have, and you're not fearful about your money, that's really what our goals are with trying to work with the clients. And then the next one is just, what is your score on your financial leadership questionnaire? So we do that all the time, and Lori could even touch on it. Like, we'll go through and they're like, oh yeah, I have everything in QuickBooks. Oh yeah, I have my bank rec done. It's like, okay, well that's great. So you did your bookkeeping, but how you doing? What do you mean? Like, well, have you looked at your income statement? Like, did you make money or lose money? And you ask all of those types of questions. So a lot of times there's a big education gap out there. And personally, I think it should start at lower in the schools, that a lot of people do not learn about finances. And that's a large part of financial literacy, is one of our largest issues on why all of these financial problems are in the first place, because no one learns about that type of stuff going through.
I can add to that too. Is I can tell you that most of the clients that I talk to, they have different industries and everything, and their background is in accounting. And one of the things when I meet with a client for the first time is I'll say, "How's your business doing?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's really horrible," or "It's really great." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" And they're like, "Well, I don't have any money in my bank account," or "I have money in my bank account, so I'm doing well." But yet their profit and loss statement it has no direct relationship to the bank account. And it's because they're not educated. And I teach these different QuickBooks seminars, and one of the reasons I start with accounting is that a lot of people think they're taking the QuickBooks course just to learn how to do a software, but the software is to get financial results. So I teach 2 accounting courses first, and most people that come in and are like, I don't need this, by the second class, they're all panicked. And at breaks and after class, they're all standing in a line saying, I never knew that. I never understood this. So when I'm teaching, in which my background is with the QuickBooks, is that I start with accounting. These people are landscapers. These people are roofers. They're florists and everything. They don't have that background, so we have to educate them. And most business owners don't do that.
Great. And then the next one is just, how much time a week do you spend on evaluating your financial results? And when you ask people this question, it almost gets you crazy. They're like, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, you're doing this. You're getting up every day. You're spending 10, 12, 14 hours a day with the whole purpose of you're doing something so that it'll generate income to be able to plan your financial future. And you're literally getting up every day and saying, I spend 0 time doing that. They'll watch the Kardashians, they'll do all of that other stuff, but they literally can't take the time to do that. So, that's one of the things that we really need to focus with them is that they really need to take that time, step away, because again, that's working in your business. So when if I meet a new client or I'm talking to a client, I say, when was the last time you looked at your financial results? Say, oh man, we've been so busy, we've been selling so much stuff, or we've been doing all of this other stuff, I haven't had the chance. I'm like, well, you're working in your business. Like you have no idea working on it. Let's start looking and working on your business. And then that clarifies what you need to do each day.
Many people who have worked with me with VIA, and you see that come through so frequently with clients where we have to do the work to update their QuickBooks for a whole year, which means they haven't had financial statements in over a year. And if you're a business owner and you are focusing and paying attention to your financial results, you should be having them on a monthly basis. But you know that a majority of our business is updating QuickBooks for a full year.
Okay, and then the last one is, what is your overall happiness factor with your business? And that's really gets back to, and we've talked about this before, it's about passion. It's really, you're going to spend a third of your life working or more, and the other third sleeping, and the other third hopefully having fun. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, I mean, everyone's been there. I've been there, everyone else. Is that not the worst feeling in the world to just be able to get up and say, oh, I can't believe the alarm clock went off. Why did this happen? Why me? Or Sunday you start dreading. So I always tell people, but what do you think the statistic is as far as how many people get up every day and are happy and passionate about their job? Give me a rough idea. What would you say, Cecily?
10 to 20%.
Okay.
I'll say more, yeah, maybe more like 20 or 30. Just because like there's so many careers that involve interacting with people, like teaching and stuff. Like if you don't like teaching and like interacting with people, then like why would you do it?
But you're actually right. So there's like about 80%, 80 to 90% of the people wake up every day and they don't want their job.
Is that
Okay.
domestically, as in the United States?
That's in the United States. So now when you start looking at some of these statistics and you say, wait a minute, 80 to 90% of the businesses out there don't make it, they fail. 80 to 90% of the people who get up every day hate their jobs, they don't really enjoy their job. But I want you to understand that part, because that's reality out there. Like that's the real world. And that's why the thing that I love so much about what SWP is doing is the thing that we do is we try and get you guys, again, it's got to come from you, just like your definition of financial leadership or financial success has to come from you. It really does have to come from you. Someone else can tell you, well, Paige, if you become an accountant, if you become this, you're going to be happy. You really need to look at inside. And that's why I like the value so much of SWP, because you get that opportunity to really do some different things and tap into your passion. And once you do that, that's the bottom line, is if you're not happy with work, there's no way you're going to be passionate about what you're doing. It's like, I hate doing this, but come on, let's get all of this done. You're sitting there saying, oh my, yeah, all right. Well, that idea is not going to work. So what happens? You stifle creativity. All of those things happen because you're like, if you're not passionate about it, every obstacle that comes up, you latch on to the negative part of it. Yeah, see, we tried that before. That's never gonna work, do it. Where if you're passionate, you always fight through obstacles. You always look at them and say, that's fine. All right, well, we'll deal with it, but we're not stopping until we get there, because you're so passionate about it that you just keep fighting forward. Okay, so the overall happiness factor. So what we do, and when the Now Network, and as we work with these people, we want to understand that part. Because just giving them a good tax return or good financial plan or good accurate QuickBooks is not necessarily going to mean that they're happy. Okay, so those were the things that we identified as far as understanding. So now the next thing is, what is the Now experience? Okay, so now we know that 80 to 90% of the businesses out there could use our services, right? We know 80 to 90% of people out there are unhappy in what they're doing. Okay, so we know our market is huge as far as being able to provide services. So the next step is, what is the approach that we do? And a lot of these have been incorporated by our core philosophies and our culture to teach, learn, the mentoring, the coaching, and everything. So the first thing that we do when we get involved with a company is we first assess the current situation. So we ask those questions, see where they're at, if they're happy. The next thing we do is, okay, can you tell me, can I see your financial statements? Well, the last time I did them was 6 months ago. Okay, so the current situation is before we can really help someone get where they need to be, we need to make sure that they're at least caught up to date so we're dealing with accurate information. So the next part is really clarifying the definition of financial success with them. So making sure they're clear and we're clear exactly what they want to do so that someday when they're working with us, they could say, yeah, I'm financially successful. I'm happy. I have the lifestyle I want for my family. I'm not stressed out about work. I know where I'm going and stuff like that. And then once you do that part, we're going to identify there's going to be gaps. Unless they're that 10%, and they're like, yeah, I'm happy. But 80 to 90% of the people out there are going to have those gaps. And that's really what we start identifying. So we might look at their business and they might say, you know what, the reason why my business isn't doing anything is because my costs keep going up. Everyone, my real estate taxes, my vendors are charging more. But for some reason, my revenue is staying the same. Well, that's really a gap in there that something needs to be done to be able to solve that gap. So we look at that to identify where the gaps are. And then the next part that's really important is we train them and educate them. So when we look at someone and we say, all right, well, here's the gaps. And let me explain to you, business owner, this is why you're not financially successful. This is why you're not living the lifestyle that you want. Because here's a situation that you've been working in your business all these years and your costs keep going up like this and your revenue has stayed the same. So you start training them and educating them because it's the theory that if you keep doing the same thing, right, you can't expect a different result, the insanity principle. So if these businesses don't understand that something has to change, this isn't just I'm coming in and saying, oh, look, your QuickBooks is all pretty now, so you're better. We really need to educate them and train them and say, no, I know every day you do this, but if you keep doing that, that's what got you to this point. You need to change that. You need to, you really need to make some serious change. And that's really where the coaching part comes in. That's really where the mentoring part that we've developed. This just can't be, here's your plan, go do it. We know that those people are going to need help because it's habits that they've built up over time, and we need to make sure that they're making those changes. So that's the train and educate part. And then the next one is collaborate and create the financial plan. And this one is huge. And the part I love working with, you young people is that you guys get collaboration. That is, when I said being socially conscious is one of the key cornerstones to being happy, truly, the other one is collaboration. I grew up in a society that you don't collaborate with anyone. Everyone was so insecure about their job that if someone came on, well, I'm going to teach. You want me to teach Cecily what I do? Well, then what? Then what about she's going to take my job? It's like, no, you need to collaborate. And most businesses and organizations operate in silos. You look at big companies and their marketing and sales department doesn't even know what the accounting or what the production side is. They all operate in their own silos, and the sales and marketing says grow, grow, grow. They never really are collaborating with the production side and making sure that that happens.
If I can add to that too, my background prior to doing this was in the corporate world, and if you do some research on some of the large corporations out there and how they operate in their operations, what they do is they have teams. And I worked for Mattel Toys, and they're successful. Everything operated in a team. Any meeting had your marketing, your production, your development, your sales, your engineer, everything. And I researched a couple other organizations. You look at those big corporations, and they operate with the same philosophy of the teamwork and collaboration.
Mm-hmm. So what happens is there's the businesses out there, the smaller businesses, they don't operate in that way. Some of it may be they don't have they don't have a team of advisors that they can actually collaborate with. Or the other thing is that they actually have advisors, but nobody talks to each other. So one of the other areas, like Lori said, companies that are successful use collaborative work teams. It's been proven over and over statistically that collaboration just produces a better result. The more collaboration, the better ideas and the result. But when you look at the business world, if we get into that 80-90% category, most businesses, their accountant doesn't know their attorney, doesn't know the person who's doing their marketing, doesn't know who's doing their financial plan. Nobody's communicating. Okay, so I'll have a client that will come in and say, oh, by the way, my financial advisor told me to sell all this stock because it wasn't doing well. I'm like, really? Okay, how does that fit in with your financial plan? Because they just did something that's going to cost you a lot of money in taxes. So the other part that's out there is to be able to help businesses is they need help. They need a team. And 90% of businesses don't have a team. Their insurance guy doesn't talk to their banker, doesn't talk to any of them. So part of what part of what we're doing with the Now Network is really going to be looking at building and leading a team. So the collaborating and creating a financial plan is we'll be meeting with that client and we'll be able to say, okay, here's what your goals are. Now let's fit out and come up with a creative plan. Okay, well, by the way, here's some issues that we should probably get and consult with your attorney. Who's your attorney? I don't know. He's some guy, friend of mine. My brother-in-law told me to go with him, and he did my incorporation papers. Okay, well, we have questions on real estate contract law and all of this other stuff. Well, how well do you know him? Oh, I only kind of call him when I have problems. It's like, all right, well, that's not good. We need to get a team together. So really what we're going to be doing with the Now Network is we're going to be able to bring trusted advisors. So the first thing we're going to do is come to that client and say, who are your advisors? My banker is Beneficial Bank. My insurance guy is this. Okay, well, how do you feel about all of those? Because they're all vital to what your success of the company is. And then we'll talk with them and try and collaborate with them. But if not, we're going to have trusted advisors that we would be able to refer to them. Okay, and then the next one is just building and leading the team. So now once we have the financial plan and we have all of the team members, now it's really just making sure that we have everyone in place. And then the next part is monitoring with accurate data. So we need to make sure that we're getting information. And then the next one is really coach, mentor, and execute. Okay, so do those steps kind of make sense to everyone? Is there anything you could think of differently, or can you understand how that would work through the process with a client? Okay, great. Okay, so when you look at the value proposition that Now actually presents out for those small business owners, the one is financial leadership and execution. The other one is a focused approach. Most of the clients aren't focusing in on that. This would give them a focused approach. Objectivity and creativity. So if they're working in their business, we want to be the ones helping them work on their business. Team approach and culture. Consistent client experience. And this really touches on what Lori had said, and it's in the next thing. It's really about the branding, which we'll talk about in the next section. The next one is a success track and experience. We've been doing this with businesses for 25 years. We've developed businesses from scratch that are successful. It's like there's a track record that that we have experience and we have trusted advisors that we actually can help these people. So it's not like that experience isn't there. The other one is performance and value focused. The performance is just understanding what the key performance indicators are in their business. Does anyone understand what I mean by key performance indicators? What do you think? We're going to have an event hall here, someplace special. What do you think key performance indicators would be for a catering business? Okay. I'm talking at a higher, numbers wise, at a higher level. Right? Might be number of events, right? That could be, right?
If you have a way of tracking it, number of return customers, you want to make sure you have customer retention. It costs way more to acquire new customers than to retain current existing ones.
Right, and that ties into marketing and sales, right? The client relationships part. Okay, good. Yeah, so every business has key performance indicators. In the accounting profession, the key performance indicators that we look at every day is we look at, we're hours based, right? So we look at how many productive hours we spend every day, how many are chargeable, client chargeable hours, so we have an idea of what our revenue can be. Some of the other indicators are as far as what we're spending our non-chargeable time on related to education, computers, and stuff like that. So every business should have at least 3 key performance indicators that every business should know. And I tell businesses, I don't care if you don't even know the accounting numbers, I want you to know at least the 3 key indicators. And it might be for a salesperson, it might be, I know I need to make 10 contacts a day, because 10 contacts will lead to 3 meetings, which will lead to 1 new client. And if I know if I don't do at least 10 a day, then I'm not going to meet my goals. It could be for customers. It could be, I know I need to have 50 customers come in here a day or whatever. But they need to understand that, because those are the drivers for their business. Manufacturing may be, what is my cost of producing that product? So every business has those. That's really the business model that kind of makes them work. So they really need to understand that and work on that. And then the other part I wanted to talk about is value focused. What does everyone think value? What do you think value focused is, and what that means? What do you think? What do you think? All right, let's do it related to our business, right? We're right? We do hours. So if someone spent 10 hours worth of work on a project, and I'm just going to say their billing rate's $100, right? So they spend 10 hours at $100, so that's $1,000. Is that value? How do you determine what value is? That's part of it. Yeah, its quality would be. What else? What else do you think?
I think an important factor there is, were they being efficient at it? Was the task that should have only taken 4 hours and took them 10, or were they doing like a lot of audit work and did it in a very efficient, time effective manner? Obviously, if you're going way over what it should be compared to like what other companies can provide, there's no value there. You're gonna be angering clients by overbilling for inefficiencies. However, if you're able to do things as efficiently or better, more efficiently than other competition, you're providing value to your client by having either a more quality service or saving them on billing rates.
Mm-hmm. And really, the best thing to remember about value is in the eye of the beholder. That's really what it is. It's value is whatever the customer, whatever your perception of value is. And I'm going to pick on the girls a little bit, and I'll probably get smacked by Caitlin. But a good example is, you might go out and you might find a purse at Walmart and spend $20 for it, and you're like, wow, that's a great value. Someone else, right? Someone else might go and get a Coach bag and spend $2,000 or $1,500 for the bag. To that person, that's value. So really, value is in the perception of the individual. So part of what we need to learn is what value is, and the problem that our economy has come to, and even how our workforce has been, that it's been more of a cost-based thing. All right, well, hey, I've worked at this company for 7 years. I deserve a raise. It's like, why? Just because you've been here 7 years, or just like the same example you said, Richard, you spent 10 hours. Well, if that 10 hours was not being done to add value, that's just hours. That's just time. That doesn't equate to value. Time doesn't equal value. And that's where economically and people need to change, that you need to be focusing on providing value. Because if you provide value to the client, you could spend 1 hour on something and say, you know what, the value of that is $500. And the client's going to be happy writing a check. Just like that person that bought that Coach bag at $1,500 or $2,000, they're actually happy handing them their credit card because they felt that they got value for it. Okay, so value is something that I can't overemphasize what that means, because especially as you enter the workforce and are working, and even from our perspective, from our company, I mean, every one of you's here, I look at you add value. When you guys come in every day, you're not just putting in time. You guys are adding value to our clients, you're adding value to our team, you're adding value to our staff. And the more you can focus on that, is really, well, how did that happen? Okay, so is everyone good with value versus kind of time? So we want our clients to really feel valued as what they're doing. The other one is just a one-stop resource. Okay, so there might be a business owner and say, you know what, my insurance guy's a mess. I don't even want to deal with him. I don't want to call him. My banker I don't talk with, whatever. Well, that takes a lot of time. One, how do you go about that? You say, well, I'm not really happy with my banker. So you start talking to your friends, right, or whoever, and you say, "Oh, geez, do you have a good banker? I need a new banker. I need a new insurance guy." Again, you don't even know. Those people don't even know what your financial goals are, what your definition of success is, or whatever. So really, you don't really have the opportunity, and it takes a lot of time to try and get your right advisors. So the one-stop resource is that we understand you as the business owner. We understand what you perceive as value, what your goals are, and then through that, you're our one stop, because we say, you know what, you really need a financial planner. And instead of you going out there and asking all of your friends who have no clue about what you actually need, we have someone in our network. And here's a financial planner. And the good part is they're going to get that consistent level of service that we're talking about, that branding that we have. Okay? And then the next one is the coaching and mentoring that they would get, and then the training and education. Okay, so that's really what the value proposition, and notice it doesn't say cost proposition, it's really value. That's what clients really care about. You want them to be able to, when they're signing that check, say, man, $500, boy, that's the best $500 I ever spent. I got a lot more value than what I paid. And that's really one of the principles of what we want to do with Now, is we want to provide more value to our customers than they perceive as cost. Okay, so the Now advantage is that's really our brand, and it's the driver of quality, customer satisfaction, and consistency among all of the network companies. Okay, so that's really what the Now brand is about. Now, as far as members of the Now network, we're talking about that we want them to be socially conscious and education focused. So every member who joins the network would be that. We want to develop with our team a level curriculum with our education training team with occupation specific skill sets. So everyone knows we have accounting, we have the accounting track, and we're going to go over when Caitlin goes over, what that actually means. We have the internal accounting, which is really DAI and VIA. But as we start adding, we're in conversations now with insurance people. There's great opportunities, great job opportunities, and career opportunities out there in the insurance industry, and no, but you don't learn that in school. So we're going to start building those tracks out. Next one's contribute to the SWP annual events. Anyone who's going to be a network member, if they say, yeah, I don't really care about our future generation, I just care about myself right now, my family, then guess what? You're not really part of our culture. The next one is provide educators for student workers. A good example is we did the business camp, I Lead Business, and we had a ton of people who came in here and talked. Every single one of them came in on a volunteer basis, all because they wanted to provide education to students. They care about helping the future. They didn't come and say, oh, you want me to come talk to these students? Okay, how much are you paying me? They said, of course we would. We would love to come and talk. So we want to make sure that the people that we select in the membership are consistent. The other one is understand each company's value proposition and network with the members of the business. So we want a financial planner to understand what all of the other network companies can provide, because as they're out there talking to their customers, they'll be able to understand that better. And then the other one is provide seminars and education videos, etc., on topics of interest. Okay, so that's who we're looking at as far as members. So since we've always had a common culture and a common purpose as far as our related companies, that's why we started with Rotolus, BWAC and Company via DAI and SWP first, because all of those things up there we already all believe in, and they're all ingrained in our culture. We don't want to bring anyone else into our network unless we understand that they have those same principles. Okay? So that's why we've been focusing mostly on the internal companies.
Dan, can you clarify for them just so they understand what it means to be like a member? Like, what do you mean by member? Is this individuals? Is this companies?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, what members actually are now, members are actually trusted advisors. So there are other trusted advisors. So there'll be financial planners involved, strategic planners, insurance companies, all of the key, like if you look at a business, what it needs to be successful, there might be about 8 or 10 trusted advisors that they need on their team. They need to have a good lawyer, they need to have a good banker, they need to have a good insurance guy, good accountant, good marketing and salesperson, and stuff like that. So the members that we have will, just like we slot in, just like RS&Co, as Paige had said, and Nicole, that it's the umbrella. What we're going to do is we're going to start sliding in similar people under that umbrella. So now it's like we have our financial planning member of now. Core principles all stay the same. How we treat the clients, the approach we use is the same, but now we can offer them that service of a really good financial planner. And to keep that brand, they're going to always know that anyone that we refer them to is going to have all of those principles that we talked about up there.
So is now just a title we use kind of for the umbrella, for the organization, or is it an actual entity in itself?
It's an actual entity. Yeah. And then now it's a good point, because
That's
you're
a good
actually,
question, though.
yeah, you're actually into a good segue into the next section, because then you start saying like, well, what is this now thing? It almost sounds like it's, it's just a concept versus a company. So what actually happens is what now is and what the team is every member of the now team will have a customer service and relationship building focus. So there are 3 main objectives of the now team. One is to make connections with businesses and individuals that need our network. So it really is the sales. The other part is ensure that each client is getting the now experience, which we'll talk about. And then the third one is maintain the consistency of the brand throughout the network. Okay, so what the Now Financial Network actually is a marketing, branding, client relationship, quality. It's almost like a quality control department on its own. Okay, so I'll give you the perfect example is two of the people now who are on our now team are Melissa MacArthur and Dana. Dana became a member of our team recently. So what would happen is they would go out and let's say they're networking, or Lori says, hey, by the way, Dana, can you do me a favor? I have a potential client. Can you follow up with them? Okay. They follow up with that client. They go through the assessment part and they become a client. Well, what the now experience is that we don't understand if that client is happy and if they got the level of value that they would want, right? Because we want to keep a consistent level of value. So what happens is when people refer business out, and let's say I refer a client to Lori, okay, through the Now Network. Well, that client's experience of what the value of the Now Network is based upon what they perceive value they got from Lori. Okay? If that's not monitored, then you don't have control of your brand. Okay? No different if you go to Starbucks, and if every Starbucks, the manager of Starbucks can decide how much coffee they want to put in to the coffee, and you go to all of the different Starbucks and like, wow, This one's really strong. This one's really weak. There's a reason why there's consistency, because everyone, that's branding. Everyone wants to be able to know up front what they can expect. So the important part that's different that Now is going to do is they're going to make sure that that client is getting the Now experience. Okay. So in that example, I refer that client to Dana. I say, hey, listen, why don't you get in touch with this client? She sets up an appointment with Lori. Lori goes and meets with that client. The Now experience is going to be now Dana is going to follow up with that client after that appointment and say, oh, by the way, Cecily, I know Lori met with you. Just wanted to know, how did it go? Oh, Lori was great. I love it. Boy, you were right. It's this Now experience. Like, she educated me on what I needed to do, like all of the principles that we have. Well, that's really great. I just wanted to make sure that you're happy. Now, what value does that add to the client? How many people have you gone, and if someone calls and say, oh, by the way, I know you bought that product. How did you feel about it? Are you okay? Did you enjoy it? So that's really making sure that the clients are getting value. Okay? On the other end, what happens is if someone's not happy, there's a principle out there that they won't tell you. They'll tell everyone else but yourself. If you're pissed off at me, Cecily, the majority of the time, the chances of you telling me are slim. Mostly, you're going to tell Caitlin, Lori, Paige, Brad, and you'll tell everyone else. Okay, yeah. But that's like human principle. It's like, well, that's crazy. Like, how are you going to resolve something with the person who you have a problem with by telling everyone other than that person? So the other principle that we have is that person, that Now representative, which we're calling a client solution specialist, is now that client's advocate. That's really that person. Is like, in Melissa MacArthur's case, if you asked her what QuickBooks was, she might know QuickBooks. You asked her an accounting question, I have no idea. I'm not an accountant. I focus on client service. I focus on relationships. So what that team is going to do, now they're going to go back. If the client's happy and they say, man, Lori's awesome. She's great. I love what she did. Great. Well, you know what? If you know anybody else if you have any friends or anyone else who's in that situation, which we already know, right? 90% of those people are in that situation that they have no direction. That's great. If you have any of your friends, refer it. And that's really what happened with one of our clients. So we got this client called the Prince Center. That was a referral that Melissa MacArthur worked, set up the relationship. I went out there, got the client. We gave them the client experience. They call back Melissa MacArthur and say, by the way, I was talking to one of my friends who has another organization called the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, and they're not happy. By the way, can you just come out and do it? So that's one avenue that you approach with growing it. But on the other end is if that client's not happy, that's the important part. Because like you said, you saw how it goes viral. If a company doesn't do something, it can go viral. So what happens is if they're not happy, we need to fix that. Okay, we need to fix that and quick. So now, if Lori went out there, I gave you the positive side. So now I'm going to pick on you on the bad side. Now they went out there, and Lori, whatever, didn't show up, whatever. The client wasn't happy. Now Dana calls up.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, this is all. Yeah. So now Dana calls up to the client and says, "Hey, I know Lori was out the other day. How'd things go?" Huh? All right. Well, what do you mean? All right. Like, well, what? Well, blah, 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 whatever. Now you're resolving it, and you're resolving it almost directly, but in an indirect way, if that makes sense, right? Everyone talks to someone else. From the client's perspective, it's almost as if they're talking to someone else because they're not telling Lori that they weren't happy. Now they're telling the client solutions person. They're like, well, that's a shame. Boy, you know what? I really have to say, like, that's not like Lori. She usually we get clients and they're all happy. Then that's where the bells go off on the back end, and it's now Dana's like, hey, I just need to talk because I talked to this client and things aren't done. So the theory is that every client that comes in, you're attacking it from both ways. If they're happy, you're saying, great, pass that happiness on to your friends, and please refer other businesses. If they're not happy, you nip it in the bud. And then we're contacting them saying, I am so sorry, whatever, had a bad day, whatever. Let's make this thing good because we want to make sure that brand is consistent. Okay? So when you ask the question about like what is Now, that's really what it's going to be. The Now Financial Network is going to be made up of the sales and marketing end. That we're going to have someone who's going to head it up, and their whole purpose is to look for networking, make sure the clients are getting all of the information to get into our system, and on the back end, making sure that they keep that relationship going, that the client's happy and our brand is consistent. So we want someone to say, you know what? Now I work with 4 of the members. I work with DAI, I work with SWP, some of the students work with us via RS&Co. And you know what? You're all the same. Like, I love it because I have the same quality of service. It doesn't matter who does it. The brand is the same. Okay? So does that kind of make sense to everybody?
Yeah. Dan,
So, sure.
if you don't mind me asking,
Sure.
I understand that now is pretty much a quality control as well as referral based for like all the companies that are underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
But now that since we technically have people on payroll for now and everything, where are they getting their money from out of this? Is it the businesses underneath it that pay a fee up to them, or how does that work?
Good question. I'm going to ask you. I like to answer a question with a question. How do you think SWP makes it?
Well, I figured SWP probably got its money from the companies which the interns go and work for. So if we're working under VIA and billing for them, they take a part of the fee they would get from the client and then use it to pay off the intern's salary. And similar with RS&Co.
Okay. So now answer the question. How would now get
So
how do you
is it
think
for
now would
each
get its revenue?
referral and everything like that they then get commission, so to speak, from
Exactly.
the companies underneath it?
Exactly, because now's purpose is right to build out the network. We want DAI to grow, we want SWP to grow, we want VIA to grow, and RS&Co to grow. Well, in order to, as that's doing, if that's now, there'll be the financial resources to actually pay the Now network for what they're doing. So basically what would happen is, if you hired a sales, let's say you hired a sales rep, or any company who does, right, they get a commission. And the reason why they get a commission is because they're bringing in sales, and the value of the sales after the commission provides the profit.
Yeah.
So it'll be very similar to the same thing. So in our business, I'll give you this an example from the accounting firm side. There's a market out there, like if you buy a client, like if you purchase a practice, like we did with Cherry Hill last year, basically in the industry, the price of that is 1 times its revenue. So if they bill $400,000, the value of that's $400,000. And you end up paying that over a 5-year period. So you basically pay 20% a year. So when you're looking at a growth strategy, you have 2 options, right? Every business does. Do I acquire for growth, or do I grow internally, right? If you grow in our business, if we grow externally by buying a business, we're literally paying a commission. We're paying 20% a year for 5 years. So now what the Now Network would do is if the Now Network brought in $400,000 worth of clients, well, technically, if we acquired it, it would be no different in that case. That now we should still be able to pay now that percentage. And then what we're going to do is that percentage will be lower, so that this way it is an incentive to do that. But that's really how it will be generated.
Gotcha. And now, as far as us bringing on other organizations underneath it, like what's the range at which we're looking to bring people on? Is it only going to be like we only want one insurance company and one accounting company, or are we going to grow more on a national, expand even further outwards and kind of just use Now as a larger quality control team that any firm could use?
We are going to use, and what we're starting is in South Jersey region, so that's why we have a Gloucester County office now, Camden County, Burlington County, and we're connected in Philadelphia. So the first thing is in that network, but we're actually going to have other accountants who would be in our network.
Okay.
Because the thing is, and the problem with people referring is you want to have 100% confidence that you're referring the right person. So just because there's a banker in our network, if that person can't provide the value that that client needs and there's someone better to do it, you would rather do that. So a good example is we don't do forensic accounting. We don't do business valuations. Well, we're not going to say that we're the only one in the network. We're going to connect up with people who can provide that service, but it's only going to be under the principles that they have the same value system as us.
So I guess a long-term goal is to get this branded enough to the point where people who are looking for consultants to bring on kind of have a preference towards people who are under the now financial name because it provides that extra bit of assurance.
You know the service you're getting. You know you're going to get the same cup of coffee, the same theory. You know you're always going to get the same level of service. So the goal is to really do that in South Jersey. And as each of the companies grow, obviously so does the network. So there's two aspects of how the Now Financial Network business model works. You're right on SWP, what SWP does and how it exists, because you do mention grants, and now that we're a nonprofit, we'll be able to get those. But if you go back prior to before SWP was a nonprofit, the only way SWP existed was that obviously someone had to pay the money to pay the students and put enough in it to keep it going, to hire Caitlin, to expand and everything. So that's what the companies did. So it's the same theory, but the great part about the network is I always see it as that. You ever see that thing where you have the snowball and they start pushing the snowball and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and that whole big wheel concept? That's really what we're developing, because what happens is if the Now Network members grow, right? If DAI grows, RS&Co grows, VIA grows, we're going to utilize SWP and provide more experience with opportunities. So as the network grows, so does SWP.
So if you don't mind me asking,
I like questions, Richard.
Obviously,
you know
the
that.
goal is to have everyone under the network to grow and expand, every company in the umbrella organization. But now if we're bringing on multiple accounting companies, multiple insurance companies, whatever they may be, they're all growing simultaneously. What happens when they start eating into each other's market? How do we resolve those situations?
Well, they wouldn't be eating into their own. They wouldn't be eating into their own markets. Only because, like an accountant, there's so much business out there that to get at that point that it's that much that we're eating each other, that you're talking, at a very, very high level. And even in that case, you could say that with the large accounting firms. Well, there's still four of them out there. How come they didn't eat each other up and there's only kind of one out there? So we would make sure that as the network grows, that there wouldn't be those kind of conflicts.
Can I jump in with that?
Sure.
And also, if you think of it from the larger business perspective, so say we have two marketing companies. Well, one of them might do all digital marketing, so social media marketing, live streaming, website development, graphic design. But this company over here does press releases and more PR type stuff. So when we expand to larger and larger, we're going to be looking for different companies that are under those umbrellas, right? Marketing, accounting, but they have different niche markets as well.
Specialization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
There was a time period where accountants did benefits, somebody wanted to go for a retirement plan, they go to their accountant. They want a payroll, they went to their accountant. Everything is becoming more and more specialized because the skill set you need is different, So, and some of the people that we're already working in, like you see Marnie around, right? Marnie has a payroll company. She has her own business and a payroll company. She's trying to make her ranks through to become a Now Network member. So now we can refer and say, hey, if you're not happy, here's someone in our network. She does payroll. We're working with other people, financial planner, and stuff like that. Okay, so right now we have the Director of Client Solutions, which is, I'll finish up. Yeah, I know. It's Melissa MacArthur, and we're almost done anyway. It's Melissa MacArthur, and then she's going to oversee the three objectives above, and then she's going to do mentoring and training the Client Solution Specialist. And then the Client Solution Specialist, which is really the first one is Dana, is responsible for implementing the three objectives above, mentoring, training SWP members, and future Client Solution Specialists. And then everyone has a role in Now, and you need to live the philosophy and build and preserve the brand. So when you say, well, wait a minute, I hear all of this stuff, but how do I impact that? You impact that by, if you have work assigned to you, you need to look at your adding value to whoever you're working with, because ultimately that leads up to adding value to the client. Meaning that if someone assigns you something, you do a great job on it, they get it done, the client gets it, the client's happy. You played your part in making that happen. If somebody assigned you an accounting job or a marketing job, and you're like, I don't know, I couldn't get it. Sorry, I couldn't do it. Well, that has a ripple effect all the way up.
I
Okay.
can give an example of that too, of with the network, and which will segue into the levels and everything like that. But through SWP, there's different levels, and there's a point to where you start working with clients and everything like that. So Dana may call the client that just got referred, and they say, "Oh yeah, we worked with Lori; it was great." But you know what? The last time she sent out this intern, and they were supposed to be a level 3, and I was completely unhappy. So that's the role, because you may be working at a certain level with the client, and you have to be given the same consistency, quality service, everything else that is part of the Now Network. So we can have the referral work great. We could have the person go out there, do great, but then the intern goes out there, and that's when there's a problem. So everybody plays a role in it.
Hmm. Okay, so the elevator pitch, as we talk about for the Now Network, is it's your one-stop connection to financial success now. The reason why it's now is you can't wait anymore. Everything has to be instantaneous
I looked at the
now.
little blur. I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
And then in order to be financially, and this kind of gets to the root of how we provide the services. So in order to be financially successful in business, every business needs two things. Oh, that's better.
I know.
They need to either get their revenues up, right, or their costs down. So that's really kind of the sale of what Now does. We work with you to get your revenues up or your costs down. Okay, so our approach is that we focus on the specific aspects of your business that will accomplish your goal. We assess, evaluate, and execute, and then value that far exceeds the cost, and we pride ourselves on it, and we know we can provide the value to every business no matter what size. We know almost every small business out there is a potential customer. We focus on specific areas needing the most attention first, and then we prioritize that with our leadership and make it happen now. Okay, so that's kind of the elevator pitch. So if somebody comes up and they say, well, what do you mean, Dana, you're from the Now Network? Well, your one-stop connection to financial success now. Well, what does that mean? Well, every business, you have two things you need to do. You either need to get your revenues up or your costs down. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's it. Okay, well, that's what we do. We focus on that, and we build a team, and we provide you with services to make sure that we help you do those. Okay, so I'm going to have to go quicker because we're kind of getting to the end, but this is the stuff when we say revenue up. These are all of the different aspects of what we can do, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are all of the types of things that you would go through with revenue up. So this gets into marketing plan, it gets into looking at their social media strategy, all of those types of things. That's another revenue source that the Now Financial Network will be able to have. As of like right now, we're starting to design a website. I think actually, Nicole, you're working on that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're starting. That's part of the Now Network. That's part of the revenue upside. Is that how can you improve your revenues, increase your revenues if you don't even have a website? Okay, so those are some of the things. So the other revenue stream that Now will have is doing specifically marketing projects. And when it's developed out,
For
all
outside
for
companies,
outside
not
companies.
just the internal Now companies, which is what we're doing right now.
Exactly, for the
We'll have
outside.
outside clients.
Yeah. Okay, so these are all of the different things on the revenue upside.
So will you then have like other companies coming to you and saying, I need a marketing plan, and then the
Yep.
interns, if that's cool.
Exactly.
Right. When we look at our network, we have 1,750 clients,
Yeah.
and plus FIA's clients, and plus, and that keeps growing. Those are all, every single one of those has a website, probably needs marketing, whatever. So we just need to tap into all of that. So these are all of the different things we're going to do from the revenue upside. And then here's all of the types of things on the cost downside: financial reporting, tax planning, performance measures, a lot of things that we talked about. So we really outline specifically out like what each of those are. So we start talking to the client, say, is it a revenue problem you have or a cost problem? Revenue. All right, great. Now we got it in that bucket. Now let's concentrate on the revenue part. Like, well, what are some of the things that you think you need? Well, my sales are flat. Okay, all right. Well, let's look at that, and then we would divine strategies in which we would utilize mostly like the marketing team. Okay, and then the other part that I wanted to bring up, and then this will lead into the part that Caitlin's going to be working with, is SWP experience tracks. And if you think about this, I went back and I said we want to be a socially conscious for-profit, right? Our socially conscious part is to help develop the social entrepreneurs and socially conscious leaders of the future, which are you guys. Okay? So when we look at how can we be socially conscious, we want to use all of this to feed that mission. That we want to be able to be at the point that we could build this out and would love someday to be able to say that we have 125 to 150 students in the SWP program all getting valuable experience, all learning about giving back to their community, what financial success is, how to do that. And all of that is, it's a win-win. And that's where that snowball I talked to you about just keeps getting bigger. Because as that grows, so does the network. As the network grows, and it just keeps kind of evolving from there. And really, it's developing a franchisable, replicatable model that, okay, it worked in South Jersey. Why can't it work in Florida? Why? That's how companies go national, and you plug in the network. So for now, we're not concerned with that. We're focusing in here, but you can see how the model, like I said, the model can work. It can. Why can't it be? You go to another area. If you have everything all set up, you hook up with the schools, you hook up with the local businesses, you have the sales pitch, you put the marketing team. Why can't this model work anywhere else? Okay? So on the SWP experience track, when we look at the revenue up and the types of services, we really have marketing and sales is obviously a big component of that. We're going to start having a track with the client solution specialist. So people who are going through the marketing track of our internship program will be able to work with Dana on some of the stuff as far as researching potential leads, doing some follow-up, doing flyers, a lot of the stuff that Cecily's already worked on, Nicole is working on, and stuff like that. But there's a success track that, again, as that grows, so do the opportunities for that. And I really broke it up between marketing and sales. I know in school there's just marketing, but there really, just like in accounting, there really is a clear distinction. There's internal accounting where you love accounting and you just want to work at one company and you want to understand that company inside and out and grow with that company. And then there's the public accounting where you want to be out there, you want to learn all different experiences. I really see the same thing with the marketing. I think it's a shame that they don't even have a sales track under the marketing in most schools that you do it, but there is a distinction. There are people from now working with marketing people. I've met marketing people that they're great marketing people, and I've met marketing students who would be great salespeople. So we really want to try and break that out and look at it that way with that track. The other one is entrepreneurship, which entrepreneurship's a track we've been developing, and it's almost the umbrella of all of them. I mean, you can't entrepreneurship. You need to have your fingers kind of in each of these aspects. The next one is business management. And then the MIS and technology part would be part of it. And then on the cost down side, obviously there'd be the accountants, and the finance are really the two that are added, and not so much on the marketing and sales side. So as we do this, as we start bringing in this work, as it starts falling in the revenue bucket, we say, okay, we got new work and they want us to focus on revenue. Okay, who can we work with student-wise to build that out? Oh, we need marketing students, we need entrepreneur, we need business management. Up the cost downside, their accounting is a mess. They don't even know where they're at. Okay, we need the accountants and all of that stuff. Does that all kind of make sense? All right, so I think that gets us into the point about talking with the tracks, and then these are just all of the members, which everyone here is pretty clear on all of them, right? Okay, good. And then real quickly, this is our success model. I think some of you have come to the staff meeting that we had done this, but when we look at the success of this, of how the network's going to work, we really see it as there's 4 key components. right? The first thing is the personnel. We need to make sure that we're hiring and and getting the right people. So we really feel like we have a pretty good connection with that as far as being able to prove ourselves to get the personnel. But the next part is you could get the right people, but if they're not properly trained and they're not ready, it's like great, they had a lot of potential, but because of our own internal thing, they didn't meet their expectations because of our training. So you need to hire the right people. You need to train them. You need to have the proper business processes to make sure that client experience can go consistent. And then obviously you have the marketing and the development side. So basically what we do is we look at all four of those components and say, how are we doing on them? Or at least this is what I do. I look at that and I kind of look at a scorecard on that. And on the personnel side, we have a lot of great candidates like yourself who are interested in becoming a board. So we have the personnel side. There's work that that's why Caitlin's involved, taking over SWP, is to really build out the personnel side. We want to get a lot more into that. We want to start doing a lot of the Briggs Myers testing, DISC scoring, emotional intelligence, quotient stuff. So we really want to get into a lot more of the development side. And then the training piece, which is really going to be Caitlin's focus for the rest of this year, September, October, November, December, is really trying to get that training program. So now that we have the tracks, we want to make sure for all of those tracks, not only do you understand what you need to do, but that we have the training material in place so you can say, yeah, I'd love to be a level 4. Oh, you want to be a level 4? Here's how you do it. Yeah, this is what you have to do. And then here's the training material you need for it. Okay. And then the last is just the marketing and development, which is really building out the now model. Okay.